What we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States.
Donald Trump recently announced a 25% tariff on auto imports, set to take effect on April 2nd, 2025, targeting both vehicles and key components like engines and transmissions. This move aims to generate significant revenue, potentially up to $100 billion, while reshaping the U.S. auto industry's trade dynamics. In 2024, the U.S. saw total new vehicle sales reach approximately 15.9 million units, according to estimates from sources like Ward's Intelligence and Cox Automotive. But it should be noted that the U.S. imported roughly 8 million cars last year, accounting for about $220 billion in trade and roughly half of overall sales. Hence, the newly announced auto tariffs will have a significant impact. So let's break down the U.S. auto business, its key import partners, the import values, and the potential impact on India. The United States is one of the world's largest automotive markets and producers, with a mix of domestic manufacturing and substantial reliance on imports. According to the U.S. import data, in 2024, the U.S. imported $219.5 billion worth of cars from 84 countries, while exporting $59.2 billion, resulting in a trade deficit of $160.3 billion in the auto sector. Domestic manufacturers like General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis produce millions of vehicles annually, but imports play a critical role in meeting consumer demand for diverse models, especially in the luxury, compact, and electric vehicle (EV) segments. Based on 2024 data, the U.S. imports cars primarily from Mexico, Japan, South Korea, Canada, and Germany. Mexico accounts for $50 billion, or 22.8% of total U.S. car imports. The North American nation is the top supplier, benefiting from proximity in the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Major brands like GM, Ford, and Volkswagen assemble vehicles here, leveraging lower labor costs. Japan accounts for $40 billion, or 18.6% of the total U.S. car imports. Japan exports high-quality vehicles from brands like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan. Many of these companies also have U.S. plants, but imports remain significant for specific models. South Korea accounts for $38 billion, or 17.3% of the total U.S. car imports. Home to Hyundai and Kia, South Korea has surged as a supplier, particularly for affordable and EV options. Canada accounts for $28 billion, or 12.9% of the total U.S. car imports. Another U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement partner, Canada supplies vehicles from GM, Ford, and Stellantis, integrated with North American production chains. Germany accounts for $25 billion, or 11.7% of the total U.S. car imports. Germany provides premium and luxury cars from BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen, catering to the high-end U.S. market. Other notable suppliers include China, $7.3 billion, the UK, and South Africa, though their shares are smaller. Collectively, North America accounts for 35.7% of imports, Asia 38%, and Europe 25.3%. The 25% tariff applies to auto imports from all countries except those under the USMCA, where only non-US content faces tariffs. This protects Mexico and Canada to some extent, but hits Japan, South Korea, Germany, and others harder. Analysts predict vehicle prices could rise by $4,000 to $12,000, depending on the model and origin, potentially denting sales for foreign brands while boosting domestic production if U.S. manufacturers can scale up capacity. India's role in the U.S. auto import market is minimal, so the direct impact of these tariffs on India is limited. In 2023, U.S. imports of fully built cars from India were negligible, less than $100 million, compared to the billions from top suppliers. India's auto exports to the U.S. are mostly parts and accessories, valued at around $2 billion in 2023, or about 2% of total U.S. auto parts imports.
We expect that these tariffs will result in over $100 billion of new annual revenue to the United States of America in tariff revenue.
I think ultimately we could probably anywhere from $600 billion to $1 trillion will be taken in over the relatively short-term period, meaning a year from now, within 2 years. And I think we'll be right from the beginning, we're going to be at a very high number.
Assure that the car coming into the country is fully built? Could an automaker in Germany say, leave the tires off a car?
We're going to have very strong policing, and it's pretty easy to do. If parts are made in America and a car isn't, those parts are not going to be taxed or tariffed. And we'll have very strong policing as far as that's concerned. For the most part, I think it's going to lead cars to be made in one location. Right now, a car would be made here, sent to Canada, sent to Mexico, sent all over the place. It's ridiculous. People that think in terms of deductions are very wealthy people, but people are going to start understanding what a good deduction is all about. So we're trying to get approved, if we can. If you borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct interest payments for purposes of income tax, but only if the car is made in America. So if the car is made in America, you get a loan, you can deduct the interest. That's a big saving. A lot of people in that part of the world, in terms of buying cars, a lot of them don't think in terms of deductions. People that think in terms of deductions are very wealthy people, but people are going to start understanding what a good deduction is all about. So when you get a loan to buy a car, and I think it's going to pay for itself. I don't think there's any cost. I think you're going to have so many cars built, but you're only going to get that deduction of interest if the car is made in the United States of America. So I'm going to sign this, and Mike, I hope you can get that, because I think it's going to be amazing in terms of the number of cars that are going to be made because of it. So this is the beginning of Liberation Day in America. But this is very exciting to me. This is the automobile industry, and this will continue to spur growth like you haven't seen. Before I was elected, we were losing all of our plants. They were being built in Mexico and Canada and other places. Now those plants largely have stopped, and they're moving them to our country.
Reciprocal tariffs next week. Will those be immediately effective April 2nd on all countries, or will you focus on the worst offenders?
No, we're going to make it all countries, and we're going to make it very lenient. I think people are going to be very surprised. It'll be, in many cases, less than the tariff that they've been charging us for decades. So I think people are going to be very, very surprised.
Why is that?
I think they'll be pleasantly surprised. I don't know. I think we're trying to keep it somewhat conservative.